Law and Order Sports is back. I missed that sound. Now, ESPN posted an article this week about excommunicated Commanders owner Dan Snyder and his ongoing battle with the league. It's been a while since I've talked about the worst owner in the NFL, and this article revealed what we have all been jokingly saying for the last 2 years. Dan Snyder has dirt on several NFL owners, and he has possibly been blackmailing them and Roger Goodell. He may be willing to expose many of the owners if they don't let him back into the boys' club and run his football team. According to ESPN, he used the same tactics to get dirt on other owners and Goodell as he did to threaten the women in his organization who were victims of sexual harassment, misconduct, and other terrible behavior. Speaking of, Deshaun Watson has had another lawsuit filed against him for, you guessed it, sexual misconduct. So we'll break that all down today on... If you do not want Dan Snyder to get dirt on you, you gotta subscribe. Today's episode is sponsored by Upside. Inflation got you down? More like deflation, right? Is your 401k looking more like Special K? Well, I can't fix that because I'm not an investor, nor am I an economist, but I can help you get a little cash back for your everyday purchases. Upside is an easy-to-use app that gives you chances to earn cash back on groceries, gas, and dining out. I've been using it when I go to the grocery store, and I've earned enough cash back that I don't feel so guilty when I go right to the other store to get that premium bottle of scotch after I buy food and diapers. So download the free Upside app in the App Store or on Google Play. Use my promo code GOODSPORTS and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. All you do is check in at the business, pay as usual with a debit or credit card, and then you get paid once you're linked up with Upside. You can cash out anytime to your bank, PayPal, or with an e-gift card. Just use my code or the link below to get started, which in and of itself is an upside. All right, a new civil lawsuit has been filed against Deshaun Watson. That's right, yet another masseuse from Texas has made claims of sexual misconduct against Deshaun Watson. The victim is alleging that the suspended Cleveland Browns quarterback pressured her into oral sex during a massage session in 2020. So far, I haven't seen anything about how this could affect Deshaun Watson's suspension. I do remember when the NFL and the NFLPA were fighting over suspension length, that there was an idea that if a new accusation emerged, Watson could be suspended longer, and that the Browns could get out of paying Watson some of the money he's owed if that happened, but I've seen zero mentions of this in any articles. I doubt the NFL does another investigation. I mean, they already believe that he committed sexual assault. In their eyes, that's an 11-game suspension. But I have to think that this puts Watson's return week 12 in question. At this point, though, maybe the state of Texas should just ban Deshaun Watson so he cannot return and play in that game. Now, speaking of banning, Al Michaels casually said this on Thursday night.
There was a report today on ESPN alleging that Snyder is accumulating damaging info on other owners and Roger Goodell is leverage. There he is in the middle. To avoid being voted out of the league, R. Michael Smith reporting before the game, Snyder's the subject of 5 different investigations or inquiries for sexual harassment, a toxic work environment, financial irregularities. This has been an ongoing story with the investigations and all of that.
Ooh, hearing Al Michaels say that on national television, National Prime Video, sorry, Mr. Bezos, and seeing an ESPN hit piece on Dan Snyder both drop within about 24 hours, with the league meetings coming up on Tuesday, we may see Dan Snyder finally removed as owner of the Washington team Commie Skins.
And the owners have a meeting scheduled in New York on Tuesday. It is not currently on the agenda.
Or at least the first real step that indicates his throne atop leaky sewage mountain will be taken away. But let's begin with a quick recap of where Dan Snyder stands with the NFL and why he's currently threatening to blow it all up. Now, if I had to recap the Dan Snyder saga, the Dan Snyder timeline, every time a new piece was added, this video would literally be longer than the Snyder cut. This is me scrolling at a rapid pace through the Athletic article that timelines every Dan Snyder event dating back to 2018. Dan Snyder should be removed just for making me read this bullshit. Now, the NFL was investigating the Commanders for sexual harassment and workplace misconduct based on allegations from at least 50 different former employees, or as they call it, a double Watson. The NFL actually had to investigate this garbage organization twice in 2 years because another allegation came out directly accusing Dan Snyder of inappropriate touching and harassing. He was harassing former employee Tiffany Johnson. The NFL also had to investigate them twice because everyone called out their original investigation as a joke. Based on those two investigations, the NFL indefinitely suspended Dan Snyder, fined him $10 million, but let him keep his team and essentially is allowing him to continue to run the team through his wife, which for a sexist like Dan Snyder is actually a pretty big punishment. Now, that investigation dug up the John Gruden emails, so in the process, Gruden took some friendly fire, probably an attempt to distract us all from the real villain, Dan Snyder. The NFL also refused to release its findings from the investigation of Snyder under the guise of not wanting to expose anyone who participated anonymously. We all screamed, as fans, we screamed for them to release the emails because we all assumed the NFL was trying to protect themselves from being exposed, and this new nugget means we were probably right. Now, the last part of this mess is that Congress got involved because they were like, we need a distraction from all the bad shit we do, and also this looks sus as fuck. Now, over this last summer, we're getting there, Dan Snyder hid on his yacht, trying to avoid testifying for a private deposition for the House Oversight Committee. Their biggest oversight, allowing that man to get onto the sea and live by maritime law. Dan Snyder eventually testified for 10 hours on July 28th, and everyone forgot about that because training camp started and football was back. And we were like totally distracted by the Deshaun Watson story. And that was the last piece of information we had until ESPN gave us this.
Washington Commanders owner Dan Snyder has been at the center of controversy, which begs the question, how does he still own the team? ESPN has learned Snyder has told associates he's used private investigators and other sources to gather enough secrets to blow up several NFL owners and NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. Snyder thinks he has enough on all of them, a former senior Commanders executive told ESPN. He thinks he's got stuff on Roger. The NFL is a mafia, Snyder recently told another associate. All the owners hate each other. That's not true, a veteran owner told ESPN. All the owners hate Dan.
Everybody hates Dan. Well, we, the NFL public, have never been so spot on about a situation that had so much hidden from us. We have been saying for the last several years that the NFL owners do not like Dan Snyder, but they can't get rid of him because 1, the Commanders make too much money, and 2, Dan has too much dirt on all of them. He's been around the league for too long. He's been around these crooks for too long, and he's the most petty and insecure of all of them. And we are in the middle of the NFL's Cancer Awareness Month. They are in the middle of their Crucial Catch campaign, helping people beat cancer with early detection. However, they may have failed to get rid of this cancer before he spread and contaminated the entire league, and I don't know if they can actually remove him at this point. Now, none of us could understand how the NFL, who tries desperately to maintain a clean image, could keep an owner who was accused of sexual assault, creating a work environment that was beyond toxic with rampant sexual harassment, who pimped out his cheerleaders in Costa Rica and cooked the books so he didn't have to pay his fair share into the ticket sales pool. He literally stole money from all the other teams, and the NFL has been mum.
One owner said the stadium is falling apart. The team is underperforming. He may have passed the point of no return. The owner told ESPN that Snyder is costing his fellow owners significant money. When asked if fellow owners would forgive Snyder if he could build a new stadium, the owner quickly replied, yes.
Maybe football is family, and Dan Snyder is your criminal uncle who your dad just cannot kick to the curb, so he keeps showing up for Christmas and you just gotta take it. If you recall, Dan Snyder hired private investigators to intimidate the women and former employees who were making claims against the organization. We know he did that, and now it appears he's doing the same thing to other NFL owners. He used his legal team and private dicks to dig up as much dirt as they could on other NFL owners and Roger Goodell, according to this ESPN article. League sources say the NFL is aware that Snyder has claimed to be tracking owners, but none of the owners or sources would reveal how they learned of Snyder's alleged effort to use private investigators. Now, what dirt would Dan Snyder find on specific owners? That's what I want to know. Shad Khan. Well, he spends over $1 million of team money every year on mustache wax. Michael Bidwell's trademark bow tie? That's a clip-on. Jerry Jones? He orders his McGriddles with extra salt, then he adds his own salt, then he chases it with another dash of salt. But why? All that salt makes a paternity test impossible to prove. Rob Walton, well, he exploits thousands of workers and puts countless mom and pop shops out of business. Oh wait, I think we actually all knew that. Arthur Blank can only get an erection with the Home Depot beat playing in the background. Chiefs owner Clark Hunt, his first name is actually Mike. Yeah, you got it. Robert Kraft, well, he didn't really have to do any digging there, did he? Maybe Snyder, though, has the footage from that infamous happy ending that was allegedly destroyed. And Mark Davis, well, Dan Snyder, he has the only existing photo of Mark Davis with a normal haircut. Oh, tragic. Now, Dan Snyder's legal reps have vehemently denied these claims, stating this is categorically false, said John Brownlee and Stuart Nash, partners at Holland and Knight. He has no dossiers compiled on any owners. Of course, this is hard to believe since this is the legal team Dan would have used to compile this info. This report is full of information from sources who would not go on the record. I believe they call that conjecture. Normally that would give me pause, but not with Dan Snyder. He's a scary and powerful little man. He's like Napoleon of the NFL. And another reminder that you cannot give a small man too much power. And I say that as a 5'8", slightly built man, because even with power, we are still intimidated by all other men. We view them as a threat and we overcompensate. Overcompensating with an unlimited bankroll and true power is the most dangerous combination you can imagine. Now, this was from the ESPN article. Most sources declined to go on the record for this story. Roger Goodell has warned owners that they could be fined millions of dollars for leaking to reporters. Snyder thinks he has enough on all of them, says a former longtime senior Commanders executive. He thinks he's got stuff on Roger.
Sources said they've been told Snyder instructed his law firm to hire private investigations on Goodell and at least 6 owners, including Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, historically one of Snyder's closest allies.
And if Goodell is telling other owners to not leak information, then maybe Dan Snyder really has some good dirt on Goodell. What is that? that Roger fudged Deflategate?
No. Roger Goodell actually started COVID all so he could avoid getting booed at the 2020 NFL Draft. And also, he voted for Joe Biden.
Now, there is one owner Dan does not have dirt on. And that owner is actually the most powerful one of them all now. That's right, I'm talking about Rob motherfucking Walton.
I'd like to thank Roger Goodell, Commissioner Goodell.
Rob Walton has taken shits with bigger net worths than Dan Snyder's $4.9 billion. Dan Snyder would be lucky to walk away owning a fan-controlled football team after Rob Walton gets done with him. And if Jeff Bezos really does want to own the Commanders, which I'm not sure if he can anymore legally with the Thursday night football rights that Amazon has, but if Bezos wants that, and you get Bezos and Walton together, they could just build a rocket ship and send Dan Snyder into outer space with no means to return, and nobody could stop them. And that's the solution. That's the solution. We'll see what happens Tuesday. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. Make sure you check out another video. YouTube would love it if you stuck around on their platform. That's how they make me a better channel, is if you stick around.